Hello everyone and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about photosynthesis. Photosynthesis uses the following equation, which you really should memorize when it comes to biology. It's one of the most important ones. It is 6CO2, which means we have 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, plus 6H2O, which means we have 6 molecules of water, plus sunlight. The arrow means for us to yield or equals C6H12O6, which is 1 molecule of glucose, plus 6O2, which is 6 molecules of oxygen. And we'll talk more about this when we get into class. So here, what ends up happening is we get this lovely leaf which has chlorophyll in it, and the carbon dioxide and the water that is in the air and in the leaf, plus the light energy that hits the plant, is going to create 1 molecule of glucose and 6 oxygen molecules. So why is this important? Well, it makes organic molecules, or glucose, out of inorganic material, which is carbon dioxide and water. And it begins all of our food chains and food webs. Directly or indirectly, almost all of the energy in the living systems comes from the sun. And it also makes oxygen gas, which us animals would not be able to be here if it wasn't for that oxygen gas. And there's a couple of reasons for this. One, we wouldn't have anything for us to breathe. And then two, we wouldn't have the ozone in the atmosphere that protects us from the UV rays from the sun. So the sun is the source of energy for most living things, and plants such as grass use the energy from the sun to make their own food. The zebra will obtain the energy by eating the grass, and the lion will obtain the energy from feeding on the zebra. This photosynthesis is the start to all food webs. Photosynthesis. Photo means light and synthesis means to put together. So this means to put together with light. So plants use sunlight to turn water and carbon dioxide into glucose, and plants use glucose as food energy or chemical energy, and by a building block for growing, or cellular respiration, which we'll talk about in a couple more lectures. Autotrophs will make glucose, and heterotrophs are consumers of it. So once again, photosynthesis, 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus sunlight yields C6H12O6 plus 6O2. Now cellular respiration, which is what we do when we use that energy and breathe out, that's glucose plus oxygen yields carbon dioxide, water, and ATP. ATP is adenosine triphosphate, which is the energy that the body needs to use. So we take this glucose and turn it into energy. Think of it as kind of like a battery. Now, where does photosynthesis occur? It occurs in the chloroplast in the leaf, or wherever there is something green. So for example, a Palo Verde has green tree branches. Where that green is, that's the chloroplast, so it can do photosynthesis on its bark. Now, chloroplast has a stroma and a thylakoid, and the thylakoid and the stroma work together to do photosynthesis. So here we go. Here's some pictures of the plant cell. You can see that there's no chloroplast in the epidermis, but you can see that in the cells there is chloroplast in them. So this photograph below is of an elodea leaf, and it's at 400 times. Individual cells, you can see they are clearly visible, so we're going to take our highlighter or our laser pointer and kind of point one out. So right here, here's one, here's another, here's another. So we can see these different cells, and we can see inside of them the different chloroplasts, like right here. Now the chloroplast is the organelle which is responsible for photosynthesis. The chlorophyll is located within the chloroplast. It's the green pigment that captures sunlight. So why are they green? Well, the chlorophyll absorbs all color wavelengths except green. The green reflects. So because the green reflects, that's the color we're seeing from it. So here's a question for you guys. If we are not seeing green, if we're seeing the green light, which light would give the most energy? White, red, blue, or green? Why do leaves change color? During the fall, plants lose their chlorophyll, so the leaves take on color of the light that is reflected. So photosynthesis can be separated into two stages. The light reactions, which need sunlight to occur. This is when light energy is converted to chemical energy and oxygen is created in this step. Now that's the important part. Step number 1, oxygen is created. In step number 2, the light-independent reactions, this does not need sunlight. So glucose is formed using CO2. Now plant adaptations. Plants have a variety of adaptations that allow them to perform photosynthesis. One of the adaptations is called the stomata, which is an opening that allows for the passage of CO2. And it can pump water in and out of the stomata to open and close it. If it is a time of day where they don't want to lose the CO2, they can close their stomata and hold CO2 in. However, this means that there's a lot of oxygen building up and they're not breathing in new CO2. This also means that they will not lose water though from evaporation. Well, once again, they are making a buildup of oxygen and they are not getting any new CO2. Leaves will have a wide surface area to absorb as much sunlight as possible as well. Photosynthesis is also affected by their environment. So what affects photosynthesis? 1, the light intensity. The greater the light intensity, the rate of photosynthesis will increase until it is too much and then it evens out. This is the carrying capacity. Carbon dioxide does this as well. As carbon dioxide increases, the rate of photosynthesis will increase up to the carrying capacity. So what affects photosynthesis? Temperature. Temperature is a big one. If the temperature is low, the rate of photosynthesis will be low. But if the temperature is too hot, the rate will drop as well. Why? Enzymes. Remember how we talked about how we create proteins? Well, enzymes are made of proteins. And if our enzymes are too hot, or if the proteins are too hot, they can't do their job. They start to break down. And that's what ends up happening. If it's too hot for the plant to do photosynthesis, it's going to start breaking down. And you have to make new enzymes to replace the ones that just broke down. So that's the big thing here. If it's too cold, those enzymes can't do their job. And if it's too hot, the enzymes can't do their job. So what ends up happening is stomata will close if it gets too hot to reduce water loss, but it causes CO2 entry to reduce as well.